In today's video, we are going to talk about top 7 best Linux distros for beginners. Myself Mohammed Zubair, and this channel is all about showing you how to become a highly paid IT pro really fast. So without any further ado, let's get started. Well, the Linux distributions that I will discuss in this video, I will talk about the common features of all of them. I'll talk about the interface, customizations, applications, software centers, and hardware resources. So let's get started, and I'll start with Ubuntu. This is my Ubuntu 22.04, and in terms of its interface, it's very simple, very clean, and very sleek. You get some of the applications docked on the left side of your screen, like as you can see, we have our browser, we have our mail client, we have our files, we have a music player, and we have software center. And on the top right corner, we have some of the utilities like we have power options, networking, and then we have volume options here as well. Other than that, the interface of Ubuntu is very clean. We do not see a lot of things in here. And at the bottom left corner, we have applications button. If you just click on it, it will open all the applications that are there by default into your Ubuntu. I will talk about that later. So that was all about the interface. Now I'll talk about the customization that this Linux distribution offers you, because we know that in Windows operating system, we can do a lot of customization in terms of themes, icon packs, backgrounds, and many more things. But let's see what do we have in terms of our Ubuntu. I will right click on my screen and I'll go to my change background. Well, from here we can have different backgrounds, and in terms of appearance we have two themes, dark one and the light one. And then here we have some of the other options that we can perform onto our Ubuntu. Yes, it does offer the customization, but if you want to compare it with your Windows operating system, well, Windows has the upper hand in here. But still, in terms of Linux, I would say that it's a lot of customization that this Linux distributions offer. So I will just get out of this, and now let's talk about the default application. While as we know that as in Windows, we get Microsoft Edge as a default web browser. Then for our music files, we get music player or MP3 player or media player from the Windows. And then for our documents, we do not get Microsoft Office by default. But now in Windows 11, we are getting these things. So here in Ubuntu, we get LibreOffice for our documents by default, and we have Mozilla Firefox as a default web browser. And for our emails, we have Thunderbird Mail as a mail client, as I have mentioned earlier. Then we have some of the other utilities like we have calculator, text editor, system monitor, and we have many other things that are there by default. If you go into your settings, this system will allow you to do a lot of things in terms of your applications. So that was all about the application, and now I'll talk about the software center. Well, as we know that in Windows operating system, we get Microsoft Store, but in Linux distribution, you will get Ubuntu Store or the store with the name of your Linux distribution. So as we are using Ubuntu, so we have Ubuntu software in here. So I'll just click on it. So this is the Ubuntu Software Center, and from here you can download different applications as per your liking. You do not have to do a lot of things. The application that you want to download, you can just search for it. Let's say we want to install VLC. I'll just click on it, and from here we just need to click on install, and everything is really simple. So this is how you can use your Ubuntu software to download different applications. And now let's talk about the hardware resources that are being used by this Linux distribution. For that purpose, we need to open our terminal. Well, as we have command prompt into our Windows operating system, in Linux distribution, we have terminal. So I will just open my application and I will look for terminal. Here it is. Or you can search for that as well. So I will just write here terminal, and here you can see, here it is. I will just open this one. And now I will open a utility, or you can say a software, that will tell me that how much resources my Ubuntu is using at the moment. I will just write top and hit enter. Here I have all the information. So at the moment, my Ubuntu is using around 1200 megabyte of my RAM. So basically, we have task manager in Windows that tells us about the resource usage, but here we have top. Here we have all the processes that are running at the moment, and here we have the percentage of resources that are being used by each process at this moment. So that was all about the hardware resource usage, and that was all about the Ubuntu. And now let's move on to the next one. The second Linux distribution in my list is Pop! OS. So let's start with the user interface. Well, again, just like Ubuntu, we have some of the applications that are docked onto a desktop, but now we have applications docked onto bottom of our screen. Then again, we have some of the utilities on the top right corner, but on the left top corner, we have workspaces. Basically, if you just click on it, it will open these type of windows. You can open one type of applications in one workspace and you can start your other work in other workspace. And it will increase the usability of the system, and obviously it will increase your productivity. Other than that, we have applications button. If you just click on it, it will open all the detailed applications that are there by default. I'll talk about it later. Now let's talk about the customization of this Linux distribution. Right click on it and go to any settings. I'll go to my display settings. Well, just like Ubuntu, we have almost same kind of customization options in here. Like we can change our display, we can change the resolution, and here we have our desktop that we can have, and we can do different sort of thing with relate to our desktop. So from here you can do different sort of things with your Pop! OS in terms of the customization. But if you compare it with Windows, it is not as customizable as Windows. I will just get out of this. And now let's talk about the default applications. Either you can click on this button or you can click on this button that says show applications. I will just click on it. So these are the default applications. So just like Ubuntu, we have Mozilla Firefox as a default web browser. Then we have our terminal in here. And in Ubuntu, we had Ubuntu software, but here we have Pop! Shop for our applications. And down here we have some of the repositories. For example, if you want to look for an application related to your office, just click on it. Here it will show you all the applications related to your office, and LibreOffice is there by default. Then you have your system, and then you have some utilities, and in case if you want to create your own repository in here, you can just create it by just clicking on it. So these were some of the default applications. And now let's talk about the software center. Well, this is the Pop! Shop and this is how it looks like. So again, you just need to search for any particular application that you want to download and install. And the good thing is, Pop! Shop comes with the default support of Steam. And again, the installation process is really simple. You just need to click on any one of these and you just need to click on install. So that was all about the software center. Now let's talk about the hardware resource usage. For that, again, we will open our terminal, which is right here. And again, we'll use the same utility, which is called as top, hit enter. So my Pop! OS is using around 1160 megabyte of my RAM. That is not as much higher as any other operating system. And again, we have processes and the percentage of resources that are being used. So again, you can consider this one as it is not as heavy onto your hardware resources. And that brings us to the end of Pop! OS. And let's see what do we have next. The third one in our list is Manjaro. Well, again, let's start with the user interface. This is a different kind of user interface if we compare it with Ubuntu and Pop! OS. We have most of the things at the bottom of our screen, as we have all the utilities, workspaces at the bottom right corner. Then we have power option here as well. And on the bottom left corner, we have our applications or menu button. And we have some of the file repositories docked onto our desktop, like we have file system and home directory. Now let's talk about the customization. I will just right click on my screen and here we have our desktop setting. Or let's leave it and let's click on our applications and let's search for settings. And here we have different kinds of setting like setting editor, setting manager, and we have file manager settings and many more. Let's click on setting manager. So from here, these type of settings are available and we can perform these type of things. For example, in terms of profiles, if you just click on color profiles, you can change it. I will go back. In terms of display, we can have different settings, like you can change resolution, you can have different scale, refresh rate of your screen, rotation, reflection, etc. Now let's see what do we have next. Well, you can have different settings related to your firewall configuration. You have Manjaro setting manager from the Manjaro itself, and you can change the default applications. Like for example, if you have Mozilla Firefox and Google Chrome, you can make Google or Mozilla as your default web browser. So that was all about the customization. Now let's talk about the default application. I will just click on my application. So these are the categories that are available into my Manjaro. Let's click on games. Well, we have Steam that comes by default, so that's a good news if you are a gamer. Then we have graphics. In terms of internet, we have Mozilla Firefox, Thunderbird Mail for our emailing. In terms of multimedia, we have a lot of applications like we have VLC Media Player by default. Then in terms of Office, we have only Office but not the LibreOffice. Then we have some of the other applications that are here by default. So you will love this one if you install it. Now let's talk about the Software Center. And here we have an application that says Add Remove Software. I will just open this one, and here we have all those applications available that we want to install. So here we have list menu. Other than that, earlier we used to have categories or we had tiles menu, but here we have list menu. But again, everything is same. If you want to go into the categories, just click on it and it will take you the category and you can go to anyone. Let's go to the games. So it will show me all the games that are available by default. And if you want to search for a particular application, you can do so. And again, the installation process is really simple. You just need to click on this drop down arrow button and it will install the application. So that was all about the Software Center. And now let's talk about the hardware resource usage. For that purpose, again, we need to open our terminal, which is right here. Here we have XFCE terminal because this Manjaro is using XFCE desktop environment. I will talk about desktop environment in some other video in details. So I will just open my terminal and again we'll use the same utility, which is top. So Manjaro is using only around 740 megabyte of my RAM. So relatively it is less number of hardware resources if we compare it with Ubuntu and Pop OS. So it means it is very light onto my hardware resources. And again, we have all the same information about processes. So I will just get out of it and we can say that Manjaro is much lighter than Pop OS and Ubuntu. But still, if you are a beginner, you can consider this one installing into your machine and you'll be able to use it very immediately. And that was all about the Manjaro. And now let's move on to the next Linux distribution. The fourth Linux distribution in my list is Fedora. Well, in terms of its user interface or its desktop, we do not get any application docked onto our desktop. We only get some of the utilities on the top right corner, and then we have activities button just like Ubuntu and Pop OS. But we do not have any application. If you just press your super key, which is Windows key in your Windows operating system, it will show you these applications that are docked by default. And again, we have these small windows just like Pop OS. These are workspaces. I will just get out of this and now let's see what do we have in terms of the customization of this Linux distribution. Right click on your desktop and from here go to your settings. Well, again, it will allow you to change your desktop background. You can have your different display settings. For example, if I go to my displays, here I can change my orientation, my resolution, refresh rate, and things like that. Other than that, we have almost same kind of customization options that we had earlier into Ubuntu and Pop OS. So I will just get out of this and now let's talk about the default application. I will press my super key. This is my applications button. I will just click on it. So by default, we get Mozilla Firefox as a default web browser. Then we have some other utilities like clock, maps, photos, videos for our video files. We have our settings, system monitor, and for our documents, we have LibreOffice. So these are some of the default applications that you are going to get with your Fedora. Now, let's talk about the Software Center. This is the Software Center of Fedora. So I will just click on it. This is how it looks like. So from here again, you just need to follow the instructions given on the screen. You can search for a particular application in here. You can find out the installed one and you can look for the updates that are available in your Linux distribution at the moment. So the Software Center of Fedora is really simple and there is nothing to worry about. If you are a beginner, you will still be able to use this one. At the end, let's talk about the hardware resource usage by this Linux distribution. So again, we'll open our terminal. Let me search for that. Here it is. I will just open this one and in that, again, we'll use top utility. So I will write here top, enter. So my Fedora is using around 1650 megabyte of my hardware resources. This is a lot of hardware resource usage by this Fedora. But if you talk about its performance and the feature and the application that it offers, this is bearable because I'm sure you will love this one when you will install it, as it is very user friendly and it's a very responsive Linux distribution. So that was all about the Fedora. The fifth Linux distribution in our list is Elementary OS. Well, this is how it looks like, and we have some of the applications docked onto our bottom. For example, we have our web browser, we have our mail client, we have our music player, we have our video player, we have our pictures, some of the settings of our system, and then we have our app center. So this is how it looks like, and again in terms of utilities, they are docked on the top right corner and applications are on the top left corner onto our screen. We do not have any button to open our applications in here. And for our workspaces, we have multitasking view in here. If you just click on it, it will open your desktops or your workspaces that you can use. If you just click on this plus sign, it will keep on adding it. I will just get out of this, and now let's talk about the customization. Well, let's go to the settings of this system and let's see what we can do. Let me resize this one so that we can have better understanding. So from here, you can change the default applications. Here we have defaults application. You can change the application at your startups. You can give different permissions to your applications. Then we have desktop settings. If you just click on this one, these are different wallpapers and backgrounds that you can choose. If I just click on this one, here you can see it has been applied onto my desktop. Let's go back to all the settings, and here we have displays. Basically in here you can change the resolution of your screen and you can have different settings. Let's go back, and again we have some other settings that we can perform. So in terms of customization, there are not a lot of options, but still they are enough if you are a beginner. Now let's talk about the default application. I will just click on this applications button, and in here we have these applications that come by default. Some of them are here that are docked on the bottom, and then here we have some of them. For example, for our PDF files, we have document viewer, we have screenshot tools, we have tasks, and if you move towards the right side, we have our videos and web browser. So in terms of default applications, we do not get a lot of application because Elementary OS believes on minimalistic approach. It means it allows users to download and install those applications that they want as per their liking. So I will just get out of this, and now let's open the software center of our Elementary OS. Well, this is how it looks like. It is very simple, and again you just need to search for a particular application that you want to download and install, just like Windows Microsoft Store. If you just scroll down, here you will have all other applications that you can find. For example, these are the free one and these are the paid one. And again, if you just keep scrolling down here we have categories of application. So that was all about the software center. I will just close this one, and at the end, let's see the hardware resource usage by my Elementary OS. For that, I will open my terminal once again, and in our terminal, we'll use the same utility called as stop, hit enter. So at the moment, my Elementary OS is using around 935 megabyte of my RAM at the moment. So it is not as heavy onto my system as we had seen with Fedora. And if we compare it in terms of its performance, it is again a very lightweight and very responsive Linux distribution. You can consider this one onto your older hardware as well. So that was all about the hardware resource usages, and that was all about the Elementary OS. The sixth Linux distribution in my list is LinuxMint. Well, in terms of interface, you will be surprised and you will be happy to know that it follows Windows 7 style. As you can see, we have some of the applications docked on the bottom left corner of our screen, and the utilities are on the bottom right corner. And here we have our menu button just like Windows 7. And then we have some of the utilities or directories docked on the desktop as well. The background is the official one from the LinuxMint itself. So that was all about the interface. Now let's talk about the customization that this Linux distribution offers. Right click on your screen. These are different things that you can apply. Other than that, I will just search for settings of my LinuxMint. Here we have system settings. I will just open this one. And again, we have different things that we can perform. For example, in terms of appearance, you can change your background. Here we have different one of them that are available. You just need to click on any one of these and the background will get changed. Here we have some of the categories and repositories that you can go with. These are some of the modern one. Let's click on this one and background has been changed. Other than that, you can apply different themes onto your Linux distribution. And again, we have workspaces available in LinuxMint as well. I will just close this one, and now let's talk about the default application. Well, here we have different default applications, and here we have some of the categories of all the applications. So hover over to any categories and it will show you all the list of application in that particular category. For example, in terms of accessories, we have these number of applications. These are a lot of them. And we have some other categories here as well. So if I say that the Linux distributions that we have discussed till now, LinuxMint offers most number of default applications that are there. After the default application, let's talk about the software center. So this is how it looks like. And again, you just need to search for a particular application and it will show you all those. And good thing is, this Linux distribution comes with the Steam support by default. So just click on it, install Steam into your Linux distribution and enjoy playing different games. And just like all the other Linux distribution, we have categories of applications here as well. So I will just get out of this and at the end, let's talk about the hardware resource usage. I will again open my terminal, which is right here, and I will write here top. I will hit enter. So this LinuxMint is using around 880 megabyte of my RAM at the moment, which is not as heavy onto my hardware resources as other Linux distribution. This also means that you can install this Linux distribution onto your older machine and onto your older laptops as well. So I will just get out of this, and that was all about the LinuxMint. The last Linux distribution in our list is NitruxOS. Well, if I say that its interface is one of the most modern one among the Linux distributions that we have discussed till now, it wouldn't be wrong. We have again some of the utilities and time at the top right corner, and in our center we do not have anything. And on our bottom, we have some of the applications that are docked. Now, let's talk about the customization that this Linux distribution offers. If I right click on my screen, here I have different things that I can perform. But I will open the settings of this Linux distribution. So I will just search here settings, here it is. Well, here it offers these kind of settings that we can perform and these kind of customization. I will just get out of this and now I will just close this one. And you might be wondering that where we have button to close this application. Well, the surprise is we do not have any of them in here. We have minimize, maximize and close button on the top left corner for every application. So I will just click on it. I will close this one. And now let's talk about the default application. For that purpose, we have a button in here. So we have to just click on it and it will open all the default applications. So we do not get a lot of default application into this Linux distribution. So this Linux distribution follows the minimalistic approach. And again, it wants users to download and install only those things that they want as per their liking. And now let's talk about the software center. So this is how it looks like. So by the look of it, you can say that it is one of the most modern one in terms of the user interface and how it looks like. So again, from here, you just need to search for any application and you can download it. And in terms of categories, we have tiles in here. That was all about the software center. I will just get out of this. And now at the end, let's talk about the resource usage. So for that purpose, again, we need to open our terminal. In here, we have terminal as a name of station. So I will just open this one. And again, I will use the same utility, which is top. So I will write here top, hit enter. Well, this Linux distribution, which is very heavy in terms of the interface, is only using around 910 megabyte of my RAM. So that's a really good news. If you are looking for a particular Linux distribution that is very rich in terms of the interface and it is very light on the hardware as well, then this is the one for you. So I would say this Linux distribution is for those who like to have minimalistic approach and likes to have sharp and latest features in terms of the interface. And that was all about NitruxOS. And that brings us to the end of our 7th Linux distribution as well. So till now, we have discussed 7 different Linux distributions with different features and different things that they had to offer us. So I hope now you know that which one is the best one for you and which one you will install. And I hope now that you must have liked this video. If that is the case, please leave a like, subscribe and press the bell icon. We'll get back to you in the next video. Till then, take care.